When the village well ran dry, it didn't just signal the end of water. It marked the beginning of reckoning. Umuahia had once been a place of unity. Long ago, elders gathered under the Iroko tree to settle disputes. Youth played football barefoot on dusty fields, and neighbors called one another Nwane, brother, sister, even if they shared no blood. But as the years passed, things changed. Politicians came with promises and left with money. The youth left for Lagos, Abuja, even overseas. Families fought over land. Pastors quarreled over offerings, and people stopped greeting each other at the market. The well, the heart of Umuahia, dried up, not just from neglect, but from the thirst in people's souls. That was the day Mama Nkechi walked barefoot into the square, balanced a jug of water on her head and said, "If our well is empty, maybe it's time we filled our hearts." The Okoye family lived in a modest clay brick home on the edge of the village. No satellite dish, no generator, just the light of kerosene lamps and the warmth of unity. Papa Okoye was a man of principle, a retired school teacher with a proud grey beard. He read books like Things Fall Apart aloud at night. He kept a journal filled with proverbs and spoke slowly with purpose. He believed discipline was a form of love. Mama Nkechi, his wife of 25 years, had arms strong from pounding yam and a spirit even stronger, known as the woman who never cheats. Her stall by the roadside sold mama and bean cakes, always with a smile and a word of wisdom. The children were a reflection of their values. Chuka, 19, was studying engineering at the university, but came home every break to help with farm work. Adaize, 16, was a poet and dancer who wrote stories in her diary under the mango tree. Ife, just 6, had more questions than answers and more energy than the village goat. Beneath the surface, Umuahia was breaking. A once thriving cooperative had collapsed due to fraud. The village school lacked desks. The clinic's nurse hadn't been paid in months. Politicians came in SUVs during elections, handed out rice, and disappeared again. The village was rich in culture but poor in unity. One day, after hearing neighbors argue over whose child was responsible for dumping trash near the old well, Papa Okoye said softly over dinner, "When did we become a people who point fingers instead of joining hands?" Adaize replied, "Maybe we need to show them how to join hands again." The next Saturday, the Okoye family woke early, dressed in old clothes, and began clearing trash from around the well. They didn't ask for help. They didn't make announcements. They just walked. People stared. Some laughed. "Teacher Okoye has gone mad," one said. "They think this is Lagos," muttered another. But slowly others joined. First, an old widow named Mama Ugo, then 2 curious boys. Then, surprisingly, Chief Eze's youngest son, Kelechi, who was usually too proud to lift anything heavier than his phone. Each Saturday, more people came. They cleaned. They planted flowers. They sang while they worked. It was no longer just about the well. It was about what the village could become again. Meanwhile, the Okoye children launched new efforts. Chuka started a fix-it day, repairing broken chairs, fences, and even a neighbor's transistor radio. Adaize organized a story circle, where elders told folktales and children drew pictures. Ife began collecting plastic waste and turning it into art. One of his sculptures, a chicken made from bottle caps, was displayed at the village square. Inspired, other families started projects. Mama Ugo began a food bank. A group of youths started tutoring sessions. The village tailor offered to sew school uniforms at half price. Hope became contagious, but not everyone liked the change. Chief Eze, once respected, but now tainted by past scandals, felt threatened. "They're making me look weak," he grumbled. He tried to ban gatherings without his approval. He accused the Okoyes of trying to take over the village. But the people, for once, didn't bow. At a fiery village meeting, Papa Okoye stood and spoke. "We don't want your seat, chief. We just want our village back." The people clapped. Even the chief's own son joined in. From that day, Chief Eze stopped interfering, and quietly, he began donating anonymously to the village cleanup fund. The Okoyes proposed something bold, a community event to raise money for a new well. They called it the Festival of Water. Flyers were hand-drawn, drums were rehearsed, recipes were tested. Local musicians composed songs about unity, love, and hope. On the day of the festival, lanterns glowed like fireflies. Children danced in traditional attire. The air smelled of jollof rice, grilled fish, and roasting plantain. There were poetry readings, storytelling contests, and even a fashion show using recycled materials. By the end of the night, they raised not just funds, but faith. Construction began the next week. Young and old alike carried sand, stones, and buckets. Engineers volunteered time. Water diviners guided the dig. After 3 weeks, the new well was complete, covered, fenced, and proudly marked. Umuahia Community Well, built by the people, for the people. Children washed their hands in it. Elders gave blessings beside it. Couples filled buckets in silence, smiling. And beside the well, they planted a tree. They named it Ife, after the youngest, Okoye, because like him, the new Umuahia had been born from innocence, persistence, and love. Months later, a journalist from the city came to write about the transformation. The story went viral. NGOs took interest. Donations came in. A new school block was built. The clinic received new beds. But for the Okoyes, the real reward wasn't the fame. It was the simple things. The way neighbors now said good morning and meant it. The laughter from children playing freely again. The fact that no one ever let the well run dry again. Not in water, not in spirit. Papa Okoye said it best as he sat beside the well one evening. You can't light up the whole world at once, but if you light your corner and I light mine, maybe one day the darkness will vanish. In the heart of Umuahia, a family chose love over comfort, service over silence, and values over vanity. And from one home, a whole village rose again. Because sometimes the greatest revolutions don't start with guns or gold, but with a bucket of water, a good example, and the courage to believe in something better. Thank you for watching. What began with one family sparked a whole village's transformation. Clean water, renewed education, and hope where there once was none. If this touched you, give it a thumbs up. It helps more people find these stories. Share your thoughts in the comments. What small change can you make in your community? And don't forget to subscribe. We're telling more powerful African stories that inspire action.